When you live with constant feelings of suicide, ideation, depression, and self-harm, it's sort of hard to relate to social workers or your friends or psychologists or therapists or people who ask you questions like, do you ever feel like hurting yourself? And my response is, all the time! Do you ever feel like committing suicide? Or have you ever thought of suicidality? I'm like, yeah, sure. And sometimes people get a little scared, or sometimes they don't necessarily believe me. And it's hard to really grasp the idea of not living with these thoughts and not being this person, because this is what I am, this is how I live, this is all I know. And so when people look at me and they think, and they get scared for me, I'm just like, yep, whatever. This is who I am. Sorry. And that kind of attitude sort of distanced me from people. And one of the cardinal signs of suicidality and depression and thinking about committing suicide is you start to distance yourself from your friends and from people. So when I started distancing myself from people but thinking about doing other things rather than suicide, people stopped worrying about me, even though in my mind I knew that this was my suicide. In March of this year, just after I lost my last job, thought about some things. And so while I was on EI, and while I was thinking, it's either I take another crummy job that I'm not going to like, and it's probably not going to work out for me in the long run, but it's going to keep me afloat, or you're homeless on the street. And eventually, being homeless on the street started sounding like the better idea. And I started thinking, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this in style. So I started buying some stuff on Amazon that I felt like I knew I would need these items if I was going to be out on the street or lost in the wilderness. And that is what I had been doing. I had been slowly purchasing items that would help me complete this plan. In addition, I started getting rid of things in my house. I would start donating clothes that I didn't wear anymore or I felt like I just didn't need. I would try to give away books that I just felt like I was never going to read or did not feel like I needed anymore, like old textbooks, because I was clearly not going to need a book on insect ecology any freaking more. I'm just going to take anything and everything I can carry with myself for this adventure, and the rest of this stuff, fuck it all. Fuck it all, fuck it all, fuck it all. And when I finally started thinking about things that way, I really started to feel free. Like I had lifted a weight up off my shoulders, because the things that kept me living in Ottawa and living this shitty life were things like the fact that I had an apartment to keep rent up. I had all this stuff inside the apartment that I would have had to deal with. And then I also had like friends and relationships that I would have to tell that I'm leaving potentially. Or I had a job that made me stay there to get money. And all of this stuff just started floating away. And I felt kind of like Emma, Mrs. Peregrine's House for Peculiar Children. I just felt like I had these lead boots on my feet, and when I took them off, I could be as free as a bird and fly away. And that is what this is. One of my favorite movies was Into the Wild, of freaking course. And I watched the movie, became obsessed with the protagonist and his wanderlust and his need for adventure and him just dropping out of society and huffing it to Alaska and making it out in the wilderness. And I felt, I kind of want to do this adventure. But he also did that back in the 1990s, before the internet, before cell phones even, before carrying around a laptop computer with you anywhere, everywhere, all the time. We're just so connected nowadays that it's just much harder to just find yourself lost in the wilderness as he did. Like, I can carry with me battery packs and solar panels such that I have the capacity to charge some small devices like this, so that I can have the connectivity, so that I can have the plan, so that I can work things out, and so that I can tell the story. It is the Into the Wild 30 years later, I guess you could say. And I want to also say that once I got out here and once I started feeling this mountain air, but how and when to do this was the question I kept coming up with. How and when to do this. And after I lost my last job at the printing company, I just kind of lost it. I thought, no, I'm not doing this anymore. It's 2020. I've been at this for 2 years. In 2 years, I've had probably just shy of 20 jobs, or about 20 jobs. I'm not doing this anymore. And when I was telling this to my job counselor, she started freaking out because I said to her, because she said to me, so what's your next plan? Do you think you want some help getting a job? And I was like, nope. And she's like, so what do you want to do? I don't know, maybe I'll go to the Amazon, I said to her. And she's like, okay, like, what are you going to do there? I don't know. I'll just go get lost in the Amazon. I don't know, maybe I'll go to Florida, get myself lost in the Everglades, and get myself eaten by a crocodile. Or I don't know, I'll just start walking and see what happens. And she was like, kind of like, really? Like, what are you going to do for money? And I was like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me right now. Because I've been living the what am I going to do for money thing for 2 years, and it just sort of kept sucking and sucking and sucking. And that conversation was March 5th of this year, 2020. And I had made the decision that I was going to do this March 2nd. I was like, I'm doing this. I don't give a rat's ass. I can't handle this anymore. I was literally just kind of sitting on my butt, waiting until I could get far enough into 2020 to fill out my tax papers, send in my tax returns from last year, get my return, get my refund, and use that money as a catapult to just completely change my life. And that is what I decided to do. And then COVID-19 hit. And all the malls started closing, everything's order just started slowing down. There was a ban on gatherings, and there was a stay-at-home order, and no one was working anymore. And Justin Trudeau decided to announce that people would be getting an emergency response benefit. And after everything was said and done, I'm just like, I still kind of want to do this.